Trey, I appreciate you taking the time, dude.
No problem.
First question for you, man, is how do you do it? How the hell do you do it? Seriously. I mean, you're an incredible guitar player, and I want to know what goes through your head.
Well, it's funny that you ask. You know how I usually associate or bring along this message, from what the band's about, and speak about it so openly and in interviews and whatever like that about my beliefs. And basically, that is the thing that allows me to do what I do. It's a lot more useful in my foundation of how I create than any musical theory or guitar scale.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically the idea. We've always said this. I've always said this. Our message is for people to think for themselves and to try to think beyond the indoctrinations and global paradigms. Basically like the story by Plato, the allegory of the cave. That's a really good example of what I'm talking about. And basically understanding that systems, mathematics, science, language, it's not real. It's just man-made stuff. And I think it's kind of useful to understand that that stuff's not real and that really nothing is real but the potential to create all things imagined, and that even reality is not really real beyond personal perception. So basically it's just a big thing. Some people say, it's all nonsense or whatever. But it's metaphysical, and that's really where I come from when I create, from that way of thinking. And I think that the only real freedoms that people have are the freedoms to decide what things mean for them and what to do with their life, the choice as to where they want to go with their life. Because I believe that there's no meaning to anything other than the meaning that you give to it. And this distinction, I think, is very useful in allowing people to be what I think our potential is, which is basically that we're all pure spirit and creators, and we're all the same, made of the same stuff. It's just our beliefs and our decisions and our way of thinking that would make us different.
You were just touching a little bit about choices and the choices that you make, and I mean you chose the direction of playing metal as a way of speaking. It's your voice. It's your way of getting outside that box. And what was it about metal in the beginning, or guitar playing as well, that kind of, why did you choose that dimension in order to get those feelings and get your true self out?
Well, before I played guitar, I was always really into music myself, just the way that it moves me, the way it makes me feel. Such guitar players as, say, Eddie Van Halen, who, sure, he has technique and some musical theory, but I think really the energy or the main thing about his playing is his feeling and his creativity and imagination, his openness. He just kind of does whatever he wants, Like in the past, when his first records came out, Van Halen, it was so, unusual, so different. And he just basically, kind of came from this, I think, at least my opinion, this way of thinking like, hey, the sky's the limit, all things are possible. Let's just go with it. And, it's like if you're in Boston, in that area, then, probably all the listeners or readers would understand, or at least know about the Deepak Chopra, Wellness Center, and, Deepak Chopra as far as a teacher about philosophy and spirituality. And that's a really great teacher. I mean, he pretty much says the same stuff that I say, and I think most people know that I study a lot of his stuff, and like Tony Robbins, and the Kabbalah and things like that. And that's what pretty much, I guess, expands my mind and my thinking and kind of keeps me open to allow this rhythm of the universe to resonate through me. I find myself more the instrument. And it's not a whole bunch of thinking that goes into putting songs together, I mean, sure, there's some design and some planning, but the real essence is the nothingness, just empty energy. It has no meaning. People can interpret it however they will, but I call it lava. It's just my little term. I just let this feeling flow out.
Is that the reason why you named the guitar solo thing that you put out with the album the bonus disc Lava? Because that's, I mean, you had the Love of Lava disc, right?
Well, the Love of Lava disc was just basically something that I thought would be fun to share with people, to let them have this recording of just the guitar solos by themselves. It's kind of an example of me, just trying to use my imagination to do things that are cool, and it's kind of a different thing. I think when I did that, it wasn't like, many people were doing things like that, or anybody was doing that. I don't know. But, I just thought it would be cool, It's kind of like when you look at things like the sky's the limit, then, there's so much more possibility to work with, I think.
Your guitar playing style, I think, definitely breaks the mold of normal, typical guitar playing style. I mean, you listen to it, and there's nothing predictable about it at all. I mean, is that something that you kind of strive for?
I mean, for me, what we do, what I do in this band is just normal stuff, It's just normal things that Trey does. And like I said, it comes from my belief, and the way that I think and, the way I look at stuff. Sure, it takes practice, and it takes thinking, planning, all that, design, imagination. And it's not like recording these songs or performing this stuff is a cakewalk. There's certainly some arduous stuff going on. But I kind of look at it as, when you're excited about things, then work becomes play, So it's like all the practice and whatever, it's just fun. It's like some athlete who stretches, their muscles before they perform. Maybe that could become boring, but it's all part of the thing, or watching their diet or, whatever. So basically it's just that, the guitar is the way that I really like to communicate. And, I can't really use any words to make my communication any better than I think just listening to the flow of the music.
I definitely agree 100%. There really is no other way to describe it. And I mean, there's the track on the newest album, Heretic, which is pretty much a guitar solo on there. I mean, it's awesome. Why did you decide to put that solo on the album?
Well, actually, if you're talking about track number 14,
yeah, 14. It was from
the one that's entitled "Born Again." That's just really the guitar solo
yeah.
that's lifted out of the song "Secured Limitations."
That's what I was gonna.
On Gateways, and it's just kind of like the Love of Lava idea of just taking the guitar solo track and removing it or extracting it from the multi-track recording, so that people can just hear, just that by itself. And it's not anything that I replayed. It's just the same thing, presented in its own little, way. And there's also a lot more stuff when the actual record that's in the stores has a lot more of these guitar solos, ones from Gateways and also ones from Heretic, kind of like the Love of Lava idea, just the tracks. And they're just, all spread out through the various 44 tracks that are actually included on the record that is going to be in the stores. And plus there's a bonus disc that I call bonus levels, like a video game, when you beat the final boss man and you unlock the game and get these extra little levels to go on and have fun. So there's like an additional disc, and it has just various stuff. I don't even want to say what it is because I'd rather people just, have some little bit of surprise or something, some freshness when they actually get to check it out.
You're killing me here. I can't wait. It doesn't come out to the 28th, and I have the promo copy, which is kind of like, the promo copies are great, because you hear the music, but you don't get the whole package, The artwork is semi there and stuff, so, I mean, I can't wait to go get the friggin' album. It's been, 2 years since Gateways?
Yeah, it has been a while, and a lot of that is because we did so much touring for Gateways. The opportunities to tour with Pantera, which was, such a fantastic thing, for all of us and for me, and touring with Motorhead and all that. And it's like I really don't do much riding on the road. I kind of like to be away from the thoughts of man, just kind of in my own little zone, and then I can kind of do my little thing, which I would call, I guess, meditating and opening up and, kind of finding those silent spaces between thoughts and allow this rhythm to resonate through me.
Earlier on, you were talking about video games and kind of making a comparison to that. In a lot of your albums, you thank PlayStation and things like that, and you have the whole Quake thing. Are you still doing the Quake thing?
Yes, I play it pretty much every day. I play Quake 3 Arena, Instagib, which is railgun. Everybody has the same weapon. And I play at this server that you can find on GameSpy called Pin the Rail on the Donkey. It's in the Instagib as far as the game types. And, just about everybody there knows me, and it's just a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. It's, I guess, for me, it's like golf or tennis or, whatever chess would be for other people. It's kind of like a zen, the rail gun.
Besides Quake, did you have, like, a favorite game that you just like to have fun with?
Well, it's kind of funny. I know there's lots and lots of games out there, and there's probably many that I haven't even, gotten a chance to check out. But for me, a lot of these games just don't flow like Quake 3. Something about the Quake 3 engine and the settings and the characters, the models. I like to use the Slash model, which is basically this cute girl with skates that skates around and is really silly. And then I use the Sarge model, which has a really funny taunt. He does this salute thing, and I have this spin button where I'll like do these silly jump spins and whatever. It's just people laugh so much they can't even aim. It's funny. But like other than that, it would have to be Doom, the Doom with the patch, like Doom 2. But there's this updated patch that you can get called Z Doom. And as far as Quake, I only play it with the field of view 110. If you buy the game and play it default, it's field of view 90, which makes the game really slow and boring to me. So I like things to kind of move the way that Quake does at the field of view 110. And, I played a lot of other games like Wolfenstein and all that. And, Wolfenstein's got better graphics and all that, but I don't know, I just find it kind of boring.
Do you ever play Resident Evil?
Oh, yeah. I definitely really like that. As far as PlayStation games, all the Resident Evils are awesome, the Dino Crisis, and one of my favorites would have to be the old game Twisted Metal 2.
Oh, yes.
I know there's all these newer ones with better graphics and stuff, but to me, Twisted Metal 2 has always been my all-time favorite car, battling type of game.
I've played Resident Evil a bunch of times, and I can't beat any of them. And after a while, I just couldn't get any further, and it was just pissing me off. I can't stand it, but I love that game. I mean, it just sucks that I can never beat it.
Yeah, Resident Evil and Dino Crisis are really great tour games, because on tour, for myself, I spend a lot of time hanging out on the bus, and then a game like that, which is so time-consuming, and then, of course, if you have a memory card, that helps you, be able to finish it. But, sure, it's a lot of fun. I've had a great time playing those games, and I hope they keep making them, and I hope that they continue making the movies, because I think the movie was probably, in my opinion, the best video game movie that I've ever seen.
On tour, you guys have been with Eric Rutan for the longest time, and now he's kind of said that he's not going to tour with you guys anymore. He's just concentrating on the Hate Eternal. Have you guys ended up finding a replacement for him yet?
Yeah, we've been working on that. We'll definitely have another guitar player for when we do the tours. Our first tour is going to be this Black is the Black tours. And like I said, we'll have somebody. I really don't have any names to release right now, but we'll always tour as a two-guitar band because that's just the kind of sound that we have.
It's pretty hard to replicate what you guys do in even two guitars because, I mean, you guys, sounds like anyway that you guys have a lot of layers in every of the songs. I mean, you got to really listen to it a bunch of times to hear all the intricate things that are going on. It always comes across good live to me, but do you ever find it's hard to replicate some songs live?
Sure. I think, the idea of when a guitar solo happens and one of the rhythms drops out, that's kind of tough to replicate because, in the studio, of course, you can just do all these different tracks. And, I did enough tracks for lots of people on some of these songs. And of course, the miking techniques that I use for my solos that are just all over this record. I mean, that's not like some cool little stomp box or rack effect. That's miking techniques such as the anti-vacuum culture and the wind riff, and you can hear it in the very first song in the solo. It's just silly, exotic, imaginative things. I call it miking technologies, miking techniques. The wind riff is basically a box fan, like a window fan.
Okay.
A little cheap thing, like $10, whatever, from Home Depot, that you put in between the microphone and the cabinet. And then the anti-vacuum culture is basically buying this little glass dome thing that goes on a cheap chandelier and sticking it over the mic, and then turning up the trim on the mixing board to compensate for the fact that no air is getting to the mic now, and it produces these really interesting sound textures. So that stuff I'm going to try to have that stuff happen live, but it's a lot of setup, and sometimes it turns out to be more noise than anything else in a live environment.
How did you ever come up with that idea? I've done some basic mixing, and I mean, for mic techniques, all I did was, lined it up in the area around where the cone of the amp was and things like that. I mean, I've never even heard of anything like that, and I was always wondering how you got some of those sounds. I thought it was like a rack or a stomp box or something. I mean, how did you ever come up or realize that idea? Was it just experimentation, or?
It's basically just a person who fancies himself a little kid in a playground with all these neat little toys, and I just play games, and I just have fun, and I'm exploring. I've done it ever since the beginning. No one really taught me how to play guitar. I kind of just discovered it on my own. I was, of course, inspired by different guitar players that I would see or listen to, but I kind of hold the pick differently than most people, and I don't know, I guess I kind of play differently, and it's just because I kind of found it on my own. And, of course, I do use effects. I use, several different things. I've used them for many years, and I also explore the different pickups and pickup selections, single coil pickup and all that different stuff as well. But as far as effects, there's a bazillion effects. It's almost an overload of like, wow, what am I going to get? Well, I've experimented with them, and to me, the best chorusing unit is the Univibe, which Jim Dunlop sells, the Univibe. It's really awesome. It's kind of noisy. I put it on this effects loop so that I can put it in and out of the chain. So, like, if I, want it out of the thing, because basically even if you have the thing turned off, it still colors your sound just going through this box. So using an effects loop thing, which is basically a Rocktron MIDI octopus setup that was sold, I don't know, back in the 80s, I think, and something I found in a bargain bin. And I put it on that so that it just comes in when I want it, and then it's out. And that's an amazing chorusing, speaker rotating kind of thing. And then I like the MXR phaser. I think that's, for me, just my favorite phaser. I like the Morley Power Wah, and I use the Eventide Ultra Harmonizer rack stereo thing that basically does like delays and it does some harmonizing, but I don't really use it that much for harmonizing, just a few things. But it's kind of a combination of all those things, and it's just that I've tried all this stuff, and it's all about how's it feel, when I'm playing through it. Does it excite me, and does it spark some more feeling or not? Because I really don't like to play with just a dry sound. It's kind of like if I have a really stiff, dry sound, then I don't have any feeling, and then I play like a beginner, I think.
That's just incredible. I think that pretty much describes, to me, out of all these years listening to Morbid Angel and just trying to figure out, because, I mean, I play guitar myself just for fun. I mean, I've never really gotten too serious into it, but, I mean, I like metal, and like, yeah, I'll try guitar, and, I mean, I've tried playing other band stuff, and I can't play Morbid Angel stuff. I tell you that. I can't replicate it, and I almost am like a beginner. But, I mean, that's one of the things that's always amazed me about this band, and I've always wondered is just how you get those damn sounds, because that's what makes you unique, I think, is pretty much the guitar sound is incredible. And I got to give you a lot of respect for that, man, because there's no one else that's doing anything like it whatsoever.
Well, that's great. Thank you very much. For this record, I really didn't even listen to any music for several years. I mean, I heard, of course, the bands that we toured with. I think Pantera is an amazing band, and I think Dimebag Darrell is an absolutely amazing guitar player. Very innovative, has a lot of feeling, and has a lot of fun in what he does. And, I've been inspired by those different things. But as far as listening to records, I really actually didn't listen to any records when I create as much. I just kind of do it. I draw inspiration by playing video games and, different things like that. And just by kind of silencing my mind and exploring, the feeling of the guitar and stuff.
That is really incredible. This stuff is like blowing my mind because this is stuff I've wondered for years. It's nuts. I mean, I saw that Pantera tour with you guys on it, and I was psyched beyond belief because Pantera is definitely up there as one of my favorite bands, as well as Slayer. And I mean, just to have you guys on such a tour like that's that big. I mean, how did you feel that went for you? I mean, because there's a lot of kids there that obviously had no idea who you guys were. I mean, how did that feel playing in front of such a crowd like that?
I thought it was amazing. I thought it was a great opportunity to be able to play our material at such a presentation, with such production and big stage and all that kind of cool stuff. And everyone, all the people there, certainly it wasn't like everybody came to see us, and a lot of them probably didn't even know who we were. But they were all very kind. I don't know anybody that said, chanted Slayer through our set or whatever. Maybe if they didn't like us, they went out and, bought a beer or whatever. I don't know. But, everyone was really cool. And, I think that it was a great feeling. It was really nice. I really enjoyed it.
I just got a couple last questions for you, and I'll wrap it up because I know you probably got to get going. But one of the other things that I've always kind of wanted to know is you guys have always named your albums in alphabetical order, and now you're at the H album. I mean, where did you ever come up with that concept? And have you ever thought to yourself or set a goal to how far you ever wanted to go, or are you just gonna decide, hey, we're just gonna keep on doing it until we can't do it anymore?
Well, with those kind of things, I just go with the flow. It kind of came about by chance, I think, with the first two records. But it's like I was just noticing, wow, this is something really cool, and like, say, before I was in a band, when I was a listener, and I would always, look at the bands that I enjoyed and kind of read in between the lines and explore, what kind of meanings are they projecting, and, I guess looking through the lyrics and all that kind of stuff. Just neat little extra things rather than just, okay, here's some music and here's these guys and that's it, I like to explore it, on a deeper level. So I kind of remember that, and that's why things such as the Love Lava disc comes out and the bonus levels and some of this experimenting. It's fun, and I think it's just more stuff for the fans to have fun with, basically, to think about, whatever. It's basically, like I said, it stems from like, as far as what I do, it stems from my beliefs. And I don't want to ever get in a position where I'm just manufacturing or fabricating music to meet a deadline, and I certainly never check in with the scene as to what's cool and what's okay and safe to do today, what's a sure thing. I pretty much just, do it like, I do music that I think is great for me, and then, there it is, and people can make of it whatever they will. And, I just kind of think we've been really fortunate that people, enjoy our music and feel something in it.
Did you have any suggestions that you could offer to somebody that's, just trying to start out becoming a musician and, trying to create something on their own? Would you have any suggestions to them as to, how to go about doing it?
Sure. I think the main thing for me is to let one's heart be their guide. Our mind is really great at imagining stuff and storing information and evaluating and, technique and theory. They're just tools. They're like, the canvas and the paint and the paintbrushes. But the artist, to me, is more the heart, the spirit. And to identify oneself with that and come from that place and do what you feel is good, and don't really be so don't put so much value on acceptance by, I don't know, other people or whatever. Because, I mean, I've been criticized my whole life. Even before I even played in a band, I've been criticized. And I kind of drew the conclusion that, hey, I'm not even from this world. Because, you know, it's almost like an actor on a set who just doesn't get it, just doesn't know his lines, just can't flow with the moment. And that's kind of how I feel sometimes, like I'm from another planet, you know, and I'm just making do with, you know, this place with all these people and their ways of thinking, and I can't really identify with it so well. And so, you know, I explore some things, spend a lot of time by myself meditating, whatever, and, you know, I just think sharing the idea that there is no meaning to anything other than the meaning you give to it. And, you know, it's like coming from this place of spirit, I think that's like kind of a really nice, pure experience, and it's really free. You know, things are as free as you make them, as you believe that they are. So I kind of think, I mean, not to sound selfish, because, you know, some people can interpret it that way, but I think pretty much writing music for yourself is a little bit more cool than trying to just please everybody, because, you know, how can you please everybody? I think it's not really the way to go about it.
That's definitely an interesting fact. And when I was just talking to Steve before I talked to you, and he was saying the same thing about how, you know, similar to a lot of people will be, you know, when they want to get in a band and they try and almost imitate that band and like try and sound like that band because they're worried about how they want to sound. They want to fit into that mold, you know. They want to like sound like Morbid Angel. They want to, you know, they like Deicide, so they want to sound like Deicide. And I think that's one of the hardest boxes to try and get out of, is trying to break that mold and kind of be on your own, because, I mean, you do face criticism immediately when you start to do something that's not exactly how it's supposed to be. And you yourself as a guitarist has just, you know, broken so many boundaries and inspired so many people.
I think, like I said, it really has a lot to do with belief. You know, I fully believe that there is no meaning to anything. There's no truth, only stories. And there's actually even no reality beyond subjective reality. I don't believe in objective reality. I think it's simulation at best. I think it's a system. I think systems are basically just there so that we can interact with each other. Like, you know, I talk about a cat, and I don't use the word car or tree. You know, it kind of helps the conversation move along. 1 + 1 is 2. That kind of helps people when they're talking about counting or whatever. You know, I mean, I know it's simply, I'm putting it to such a silly thing, but man, these basics are like, you know, they can become prisons when you think that the stuff is real, because I think it kind of binds one's ideas about what's possible. And I think putting all that stuff in its right perspective is really useful. In other words, like if you're going to put a lot of value and have some critics say, oh, your music sucks, and, you know, why are you doing that? That was cool yesterday, but it's not cool today. If you're putting value on that, boy, that's going to really kind of block you a little bit. But if you kind of say, like, hey, this guy, that's their interpretation, and that's fine. There's no truth. It's just stories, you know. There's no reality. It's all personal. There's no static reality. Reality happens in the mind. It's through global conditioning that we would have this simulation of a global consciousness or a global truth. So, I don't know. It's just a way of thinking. You know, maybe it's not useful for people. Maybe it's too deep or silly or whatever. You certainly can't measure it with science. It's beyond the realms of time and space. But, you know, that's what I'm about. That's what I'm interested in, and that's where the music comes from.
Trey, I want to thank you so much, man. This has probably been one of the most interesting interviews I've ever done. Seriously, I mean, I got to go back and listen to this. You have a lot of interesting stuff to say other than just spitting out whatever, you know, just bullshit. I mean, you really have a lot of in-depth thinking that goes into it, and you can tell as well with your music. And I got to congratulate you. I'm a huge Morbid Angel fan. I got to congratulate you on the album. I mean, you guys, I've never, ever had a doubt in my mind when I've gone to buy a Morbid Angel album that I'm going to get anything less than something that's going to be a surprise and interesting. I never once in my mind go and pick this up and say, I wonder if it's going to be good. I just wonder how good it's going to be. And, you know, I really appreciate musicians like you and your band going out and really pushing the boundaries and just making music that much more interesting to listen to.
That's excellent. Thank you, man. Some really nice things you're saying. And I'd just like to add that, you know, when I talk about what I believe and all that, I'm just a point of view. I'm not trying to say people should even agree with what I'm saying, but hopefully just to inspire others to, you know, search for their own answers and things like that, you know, and my reference points may not even work for other people. But, you know, I share my reference points it would be teachers such as Tony Robbins, Deepak Chopra, the Kabbalah, creative visualization. All those different topics go into what I'm talking about. So, I'm not certainly trying to introduce some new belief system because at best I'm just trying to inspire that, wow, there's all this stuff out there, and if people think things are kind of limited, then maybe they just need to look at things differently.
That's true. I learned that in one of my philosophy classes that I took. I never really. It's hard for a lot of people to actually even get into philosophy because you really have to think a lot and really kind of get beyond boundaries. But one of the philosophers that they talked about a lot was Zarieka. But I mean, just the ideas of thought and thinking is just incredible. The way that you can kind of think for yourself without having somebody teach you. Like, he's in a way teaching you to think, but not trying to have him say, like, this is how you have to think, but he's kind of like telling you to think the way you have to think.
Sure. I think a teacher's role in this type of area is more lead without leading, because to lead, to actually tell people, this is the way it should be and this other way is wrong, then they're really kind of just, one more, I don't know, crusade, or something, someone speaking, trying to make their beliefs into global truth. And that's not, what I'm coming from, and I know that's not what Tony Robbins and Deepak Chopra and people like that try to teach either. It's just, I don't know, examples, of what's possible, and I look more for principles as opposed to truth. It's maybe just another clever term, but to me, principles such as the power of one's belief and the impact it has on one's world, I kind of find that it seems pretty real, and I would say it's at least a principle, but maybe not a truth.
Well, it's once again, it was great talking to you, and I really respect what you guys do, and I appreciate you taking the time out, and I definitely can't wait to see you guys come around. I'm not sure if that Danzig tour is coming to Massachusetts or not, but I hope it is. But if not, I hope you guys come around and I get to see you live again, because it's always a great show, and I can't wait for the actual album to come out and get all the extra stuff too. But I appreciate it and respect it, and I just hope that you guys just keep on going, and I know you will.
Yeah, I kind of feel that I'll keep doing it as long as I can do it with some kind of passion, And if it feels like I'm just trying to meet a deadline or just trying to fabricate music to make another record and there's no heart in it, then I just won't do it anymore.
There's not much else you could ask for in a metal band, or in a band in general.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much.
Hey, thanks a lot for taking the time. Appreciate it.